Hello, I'm Nima Rajan. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says large and small businesses, nonprofits, and charities will all be eligible for a 75% subsidy on wages meant to cushion the blow from the COVID-19 pandemic. Employers will have to show that their revenues have fallen by at least 30%. The wages the subsidy covers will be capped at $847 a week. Speaking outside his Ottawa residence, Trudeau says the size of the company will not bear on whether it qualifies for the help. The Prime Minister says companies that can pay their employees without federal help should do so, warning businesses that any abuse of federal financial aid will have serious consequences. Well, meanwhile, the federal government's new restrictions on domestic air and intercity passenger rail traffic go into effect at noon today. Staff at the airlines and railways will be tasked with screening passengers and barring those exhibiting any COVID-19 symptoms from boarding. Commuter traffic isn't affected by new measures, as that's a provincial responsibility. Meanwhile, health officials say Newfoundland and Labrador continues to have one of the highest infection rates per capita in the country, second only to Quebec. With 15 new cases announced yesterday, the province's total confirmed number of cases rose to 135. The province says the sudden spike can be attributed to the so-called clustering of 99 cases that occurred after two funerals were held in St. John's earlier this month. Well, moving to Manitoba, where government officials have confirmed that a WestJet passenger flying from Calgary to Brandon on March 15th has tested positive for COVID-19. Passengers aboard the turboprop plane in rows 9 through 15 and 2 through 8 are being asked to self-isolate. A total of 9 flights to Winnipeg from March 3rd to March 15th have also had confirmed cases of COVID-19. While the Competition Bureau says Air Canada's proposed acquisition of Transat AT, which owns Air Transat, likely will hinder competition and result in less choice for Canadian travelers. In a report to Transport Minister Marc Garneau, the watchdog says eliminating the rivalry between the two carriers would result in higher prices, fewer services, and ultimately less travel by Canadians on a range of competing routes. Transport Canada has until May 2nd to complete a public interest assessment and provide it to the minister. Well, moving to the U.S. now, where President Donald Trump is bracing the nation for a death toll that could exceed 100,000 people. The president has extended restrictive social distancing guidelines through April. This is a shift in tone by the president, who only days ago spoke about the country reopening and being ready to go in time for Easter. Global infections of the coronavirus now total more than 720,000, with more than 34,000 people having died around the world. Well, meanwhile, a Navy hospital ship is set to arrive in New York Harbor today to help relieve New York City's hospitals. The USNS Comfort has 1,000 beds and 12 operating rooms and is expected to help with treating non-coronavirus patients while hospitals treat people with COVID-19. The ship's arrival comes as New York State's death toll from the coronavirus outbreak climbed Sunday above 1,000. Most of those deaths have occurred in just the past few days. While ignoring a ban on gatherings, hundreds of worshippers attended services at a Louisiana church on Sunday. They turned a deaf ear to Governor John Bell Edwards, who's been warning that hospitals could soon be overwhelmed with new cases of COVID-19. Governor Edwards says people who violate the ban are being selfish and grossly irresponsible. Well, Russia's prime minister today told regional governors to prepare for the lockdown of the nation's capital, which is being shuttered to help stem the spread of COVID-19. Moscow's mayor ordered all city residents, except those working in essential sectors, to stay at home starting today. Residents are only allowed to buy food and medicines at nearby stores and pharmacies and walk their dogs in close vicinity. Iranian state-run media say prisoners in southern Iran broke cameras and caused other damage during a riot. Iran had temporarily released around 100,000 prisoners as part of measures taken to contain the pandemic, leaving an estimated 50,000 people behind bars, including violent offenders. Iran has reported more than 40,000 infections and 2,757 deaths. Well, Australia has announced a plan worth 130 billion Australian dollars to subsidize businesses damaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. The money will be used to pay up to 6 million staff a minimum wage to keep them in the workforce for the next 6 months. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison says businesses that have lost 30% of revenue because of the viral outbreak will be eligible for the subsidy, which is part of what he describes as a hibernation strategy for the economy. Airline flights from the Chinese province at the center of the coronavirus outbreak have resumed as the government relaxes restrictions. The Communist Party has declared a victory over the outbreak. Most access to Wuhan, the city where the first coronavirus cases were reported in December, were suspended on January 23rd. Restrictions spread to other cities in Hubei, cutting train, air, and road links. Subway and bus service in Wuhan resumed Saturday, and the city's train station reopened. This amid reports that some recovered coronavirus patients have tested positive a second time, raising concerns about a potential second wave of the virus. Afghan's defense ministry says Taliban attacks have killed at least 11 soldiers and police. The Taliban have not claimed responsibility for the latest attacks. The ministry says the insurgents targeted a military checkpoint in a multi-pronged attack in southern Zabul province on Sunday night, killing at least 6 troops. In the northern Baghlan province, at least 5 members of the security forces were killed and 6 others were wounded when their checkpoint came under a Taliban attack on the outskirts of the provincial capital. Well, some good news today now. A loud and beloved Vancouver tradition is being altered for the first time in its 164-year history to show the city's appreciation for healthcare workers on the front lines of the battle against COVID-19. Starting tonight and continuing for the month of April, the 9 o'clock gun, a 12-pound cannon in Stanley Park fired every night at 9 p.m., will be fired 2 hours earlier at 7 p.m. That matches the time each evening when residents across the city stand on porches, balconies, and street corners to honk horns, cheer, clap, and bang pots in a show of support for healthcare workers. And a big thank you to frontline workers from us at the News Forum as well. I'm Nima Rajan. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.